agenda items to? Seeing there are none, can I get a motion, please, to approve them?
So moved, Chair.
Motion's been made to approve the agenda items as changed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Any questions? Any discussion?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Madam Clerk. And do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion has been made to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Moving right along.
Okay.
It is my distinct pleasure and honor in honoring 50 years of service of Northview Fire Department Chief Ronnie Campbell. Whereas Chief Ronnie Campbell joined the Northview Fire Department in 1971, and whereas in 1988, Chief Ronnie Campbell was elected as Chief of the Northview Fire Department. And whereas during his tenure as Chief, Ronnie Campbell became the first paid administrator serving Northview Fire Department. And whereas Chief Ronnie Campbell has served in many roles, including being a fire and rescue instructor, and whereas Chief Ronnie Campbell was integral in the development of Lee County's fire response program, and whereas Chief Ronnie Campbell, along with the staff and volunteers associated with the Northview Fire Department, have made significant contributions to the Lee County community above and beyond providing outstanding fire protection and emergency response services, including hosting various community events. And whereas Chief Ronnie Campbell has led his staff and the volunteer firefighters with integrity as he has dedicated his career to serving and sacrificing for others to help protect the citizens of Lee County. And whereas the Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize Chief Ronnie Campbell and honor the achievement of 50 years of exemplary fire service and 33 years of leadership as Chief of the Northview Fire Department. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Lee County Board of Commissioners that Chief Ronnie Campbell is hereby commended and honored on behalf of all citizens of Lee County for his exemplary 50 years of service and contributions to the Northview Fire Department, presented this 21st day of June, 2021. Chief Campbell. He has a meeting to get to, so we got to get him on his way.
Not going to stay so in toasted.
Move to approve the resolution for Chief Campbell.
Motion's been made to approve the resolution for Chief Ronnie Campbell of the Northview Fire Department. All those in favor? Any discussion? Any comments?
I'd like to just make a comment. I hate he left, but it takes a lot of dedication. I was going to tell him, yeah, there he is. He's going to listen. It takes a lot of dedication from this man himself, but his family also. His dad also was in the fire service, so it's in his blood. And these guys sitting over here, once you get service work in your blood, it's in there. And his son followed. And Ronnie, I got to thinking back 50 years, but next year I'll be involved in it 40 years. So it's been good working with you, around you, with you, and all. Thank you so much for your service for our community.
Any other comments? Thank you, Chief Campbell. No speeding to your meeting. Next item is a proclamation celebrating Creek Week. Whereas Creek Week is a week-long celebration of local waters throughout North Carolina, and whereas it is the desire of the Lee County Board of Commissioners to support this celebration in awareness of the importance of nature's water systems by promoting the conservation of the Deep River, and whereas Creek Week offers recreational, educational, and volunteer opportunities to enjoy and contribute to the healthy waters in North Carolina, and whereas during the week of June 19 through 26, 2021, the Deep River Park Association will be encouraging the citizens of North Carolina to experience the importance of the river through recreational activities. And whereas the observance of Creek Week calls our community attention to appreciation and conservation of the local waterways in Lee County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Lee County Board of Commissioners proclaim the week of June 19th through June 26th, 2021 as Creek Week in Lee County, North Carolina, and commend its observance upon all residents adopted this 21st day of June 2021. And my apology, we didn't vote on the first resolution. So all those in favor of the resolution for John, Chief Ronnie Campbell? We did. Signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. We already did?
No.
No, he
Okay.
just made
All right.
Bill made the motion, we didn't vote.
Now, do I have a motion and the proclamation of celebrating Creek Week?
So moved.
Motion's been made to approve the proclamation celebrating Creek Week. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries, Madam Clerk. Next item, and I love it when I walk away and my screen disappears. Modern technology is a great thing.
When it works.
When it works. Thank God we don't live in California. They're having revolving power outages. Speaking of revolving, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the revolving loan fund. And Madam Barrister?
I'll introduce it.
Oh, okay.
The Sanford Area Growth Alliance is requesting a $100,000 loan from the Lee County Revolving Loan Fund. They plan to use the funds at CCEP for the development costs at spec building number 4 site. The notice for the public hearing ran in the Sanford Herald on June 10th, and the terms on the loan will be 36-year payback with 3% interest.
Okay, the public hearing for the revolving loan fund is now open. All those in favor of the proposal, please feel free to come forward to speak.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to speak on behalf of this loan. I'm Jimmy Randolph, 3405 Windmere Drive here in Sanford, and just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to put this before you as an opportunity to speed up and accelerate development at CCEP for Shell Building 4. I've spoken with you before about this, and I just wanted to reiterate how successful the CCEP Shell Building program has been in helping with our economic development recruitment efforts. Shell Building 1 and 2 both attracted end users with announced capital investment totaling more than $300 million and a creation of 524 new jobs with an average wage of more than $70,000. Both were sold concurrent with or prior to completion. And as we submit Shell Building 3 for a number of projects as we speak, we just received another RFI this week that we're submitting Shell Building 3 for. The ability to have Shell Building 4 pre-development covered and lined up to go fast with construction once Shell 3 is sold would greatly enhance our economic development efforts in the park, and I appreciate your consideration of our request for a loan to help facilitate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on behalf of the revolving loan fund for Sanford Area Growth Alliance? Anyone willing to speak in opposition to the revolving loan fund? Seeing that there are no further public discussions or comments, I close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we amend our policy and vote on this tonight.
Motion's been made to waive our policy and vote on the revolving loan fund. Any discussion?
Is this something that SOG is asking for?
Correct.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was it? What was the question? I'm sorry.
I asked, was this something SAGA was asking for to
I got
vote
you.
on it tonight?
I got you.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries, Madam Clerk.
And then
I did not see the list on public comments.
well, first, now I make a motion that we approve the loan.
All right, the motion has been made to approve the loan for the revolving loan, from the revolving loan fund for the Sanford Area Growth Alliance, $100,000. Any discussion? Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Oh, glad you caught that. We had two motions there. We're getting feedback. Did we have any? No public comments this evening. All right, old business, information update on the Sheriff Watson Road, and I'm going to turn it over to Whitney.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right.
If the board recalls, the Sheriff Watson Road, that PIN number is 9547969540. It's a property that the county has acquired through the tax foreclosure process. We had previously received an offer on that property, but that individual has, after some discussions with that individual, has requested to withdraw her offer. However, through the last couple of months, I have received numerous inquiries on this property, so I told everyone who has contacted me that I was going to at least update the board and kind of start, so that way everyone is aware. We'll return her money. We never advertise the property, and then I will just open it up to accept new bids, and I can bring those before the board whenever I receive them, either in July or August. So there's nothing that the board needs to do tonight. It's more of an update, just so everyone knows, so I can kind of move forward with a clean slate on that property.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion, questions? All right, moving right along. Under old business, item B is appointments to boards and commissions. Everyone has the ballot in their possession. And if you
Summary. So at each of your seats, I've provided an updated ballot, and through this process since March, I've provided periodic updates, as we've gone through, as applications were received. So you'll take a look at the vacancies listed under each board and make your appointments accordingly. And we did receive applications as late as today, so this is the latest ballot reflecting those applications. Those applications were forwarded to you by email. And I'm happy to take any questions if you have them. We will need a vote to vote by ballot. And then from there, I would recommend passing them to me. You have to sign them. And I can provide the board with an update maybe prior to the manager's report of the results of those ballots. That way we can continue moving forward through the meeting.
Thank you.
I've got a question. I see where a lady has, Amy Nanette Davis has willingly wanting to serve on 4 different, but I think I read where they can only serve on 2 boards, is that correct?
That's correct. By policy and by dual office holding statutes, she can only serve up to 2 boards. Now, that does include city boards or other appointed boards, and they do have to make those disclosures in their application on any other boards they are serving. I don't believe she's serving on any other boards, but if you appoint her, you can only appoint her on up to 2 boards.
Can I make a comment on that? I've also talked to Beth Fisk about the library, and since Amy Davis is on multiple things and can't serve but 2, I'm advising people that it'd be best to vote for the first 4, if that's okay. You know, you could still vote for Amy. I'm just suggesting that that's in concert with what the librarians are saying.
Just at this time, if we can, if I can ask for a motion to vote by ballot, and as you're able to complete your ballots, if you'll just pass them my way and make sure you sign them before you pass them. Thank you so much.
I move that we vote by ballot for the board appointments.
A motion's been made to appoint 2 boards and commissions using the ballot method. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
And the motion carries. We'll be voting by ballot. Oh, excuse me, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're going to vote by ballot.
I have a
Please.
question for the clerk. Under Parks and Recreation Commission, where it says 3 regulars and 1 alternate, do you have to make a difference? Or?
Yes, please designate which one you would want to serve as alternate. Ms. Nikisha Richmond was previously serving as an alternate, so I would recommend that she be moved to a regular position, and I have spoken to the Parks and Rec Director, and that she's a regular attender at the Parks and Rec Commission meetings. But other than that, yes, if you'll make the alternate designation as well.
Thank you.
One more question on the Triangle Smith, or Triangle South Workforce Development Board. On the June ballot, it had only 1 vacancy, so it's showing tonight 2, is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. We received an update from the Triangle South Workforce Development Board that there was a resignation, so they're reflecting 2 vacancies for Lee County. 1 is industrial and 1 is small business. Daryl Parker would fulfill the industrial capacity. I think he works for STI Polymer, and Matthew Cashin would fulfill the small business.
Great, thank you.
Madam Clerk, when was the deadline for the application?
We listed a deadline. It was the Friday before the last meeting, just to go ahead and try to get these applications in, but we continue to accept them up until today.
I was curious because I see the CCCC board ballot is a little different from what I saw last meeting.
That's correct. We did receive an additional application today for that board.
And if I can add that Representative Sauls is not eligible due to state statutes, that members of the General Assembly cannot be members of the Board of Trustees.
No, they know what I'm talking about.
What do you need to tell them?
I also would like for the Madam Clerk or the attorney to tell us the rules about a commissioner serving on the CCC Board of Trustees.
Yes, I can do that. So
Trouble, maybe.
when we originally looked at this, we looked at the general statute, which is 115D-12, which would basically say that, the Board of Commissioners basically makes their appointments in Group 2. And under Group 2, that would not allow more than 1 commissioner in each respective county that makes the appointment. So that would be Lee, Chatham, and Harnett to serve at any given time, because there is currently a Chatham County Commissioner serving on the CCCC Board of Trustees. However, there was a local bill that was adopted, Session Law 2015-252, and under, under section, under the last part of it, it says that No more than one trustee from Group 2 may be a member of a board of county commissioners of a given county, which basically means that each county can have one commissioner serving. So Lee County can make one commissioner appointment.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
My pleasure.
Still not the issue. Still not the issue. For the record, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is whether or not we're violating our own policy regarding the timeliness of an application. Now, I'm not objecting, but I do think it ought to be clearly stated that it's my belief that that's what's in question.
So noted.
And I want to be recorded.
Just comment, I think that's a valid comment,
Yes.
very valid, because I think I've made that point too. I think what, my underlying thing is, I would like, if I had the opportunity, and I looked into this, and I don't think we do,
Right.
but I would like to have a commissioner sit on that board, and let the chair pick it, regardless who the chair may be,
Yeah.
every year pick that, the chairman to sit there, just because we have financial obligations, and I think we sit on majority of boards that we have financial obligations to. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Right.
But I wish, I'd like to change that rule where every year we can appoint someone to that board.
Right.
And that be, so,
Duly noted, and I do understand, and I'm not objecting, but I do like for the record to be clear.
And if I could add a comment, we still have vacancies on Fire Advisory Board, the Cemetery Board of Trustees, Industrial Facilities Pollution Control. We have 6 vacancies. And we have 2 vacancies on Americans with Disability Act Board. And if we can get anybody to volunteer tomorrow and apply and meet the requirements, we'll be able to approve them in July. Has everybody got their ballots turned in?
Yes. we
Okay.
received 7 ballots.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the first meeting in July. I've been advised by the clerk and the attorney and the manager that there's really nothing pressing for the first meeting in July. So as to carry on, we'll have one meeting in July. And I'll need a motion to that effect. Is any discussion?
You're doing the second meeting then,
The second meeting in July.
and skipping the first meeting, so moved?
Motion's been made to continue with the second meeting in July only, unless an emergency pops up. But as it is, we're going to forego the first Monday in July. Any further discussion?
Just a question, we had discussed the possibility of only having one meeting, I believe in September and October, because we were so busy. It would be good if we could just clarify that sometime, so we know.
I understand. And the earlier discussions that were brought to my attention was that we do have the American Recovery Act, we do have the contract with the emergency services coming up, which will require public hearings. And so we were anticipating that being done in July. But being that it's nothing for the first Monday in July, we're going to forego that meeting as the motion has been made. Any further discussions, questions? Motion's been made. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried, Madam Clerk. New business, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, request to appear before the board. Pamela Glover, I was looking for you and I didn't see you behind the podium. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Commissioners, County Manager. Thank you all. You did receive our fiscal year 2021 executive summary, so I don't want to read everything to you again because I'm sure you all can read. One thing that I did want to note is when we put it together on our JCPC action plan processes, item number 3, we had planned to have a Stronger Together community resource event, and we had to postpone that because that Saturday the weather was not agreeing with us. So we have moved that event to Saturday, July the 17th. And the purpose of that is, as we stated, is because, everyone was pretty much closed in last year. And and we've been receiving information from, parents, school system, still trying to figure out what resources we have in Lee County. And we are a small county, but we do have some great resources in our county. So that's why we were wanting to have that Stronger Together community resource event. So that was one change that I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of, that it's going to be Saturday, July the 17th, 2021. And again, our program providers, they still were able to provide the services. Teen Court, of course, Teen Court was not as busy because most of the students were at home, so there wasn't a lot of referrals coming from the school resource officers. But what they did, they were doing trainings and doing like mock trials in the courtrooms and things like that without cases. And of course, community service and restitution. Our kids were still having to serve their time with community service and restitution, our mentoring program, and of course, high school seminar, which is we assist Bragg Street Academy with some of their funding needs with high school seminar program by funding a core project, which is a curriculum and evidence-based program that works on interpersonal skills, vocational training, things like that. So they were still able to provide the services for the youth, even though we were still operating with limited access with the pandemic. And for our upcoming fiscal year, the 21-22 fiscal year, we didn't have any new applicants. So if you see on our county funding plan, our admin budget, the board agreed to $10,084, which $5,600 of that is for our part-time coordinator, our secretary, so to speak, for our board. Project Challenge, which is the program that provides the restitution and community service, $90,000. Our DASH mentoring program, which does what it says, mentoring, $10,000. Our teen court, $90,000, and high school seminar, $5,000, for a total of the $205,084. So that's what our county funding plan would be for our upcoming fiscal year 21-22, if it meets your approval. Are there any questions?
Any questions? I do have a question. Is this an item on the budget that we've covered? I don't have it in front of me.
It's not in our budget, but typically we just approve their budget, right?
Yeah, it's in the budget already. We did not specifically have y'all review that particular budget.
Okay. Okay, I understand.
No county funds.
Do I have a motion to approve the Lee County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council's requests?
So moved.
Motion has been made to approve the Lee County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council's request for 2021-2022 county plan and funding decisions. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pam.
Have a great rest of your year.
It is there. It's under human services in our budget. Sorry.
Okay. I knew I'd seen some. It just that there was no budget impact statement here, and I was curious, okay, where's this going? Next item is the resolution accepting the American Rescue Plan. Who's going to take this one?
I can. The American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law on March 11th of 2021, and it will allocate specific funds for Lee County government. Before any of the funds can be spent, the Board of Commissioners must approve the attached resolution.
Has everyone read the resolution? Does anyone wish to have it read to them? All right, foregoing the reading exercise, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made to approve the resolution accepting the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 funding. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is permission from the Lee County Library to allow alcohol sales during the PopCon event in August.
I'll take this one to start. So the Lee County Library is hosting the annual PopCon event on August 21st from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. As part of the event, there will be special guest speakers, demonstrations, and vendor tables. Two of the vendors have requested to sell sealed alcohol at the event. So the question came up and I had to do some research. There's nothing in the county's code of ordinance that I could find that was a general prohibition for the sale or consumption of alcohol on county property. I did see that prohibition written related to the Parks property. So after discussing this a little bit with, I contacted the planning department, spoke with Amy McNeil. The county, because we own the property, would have to fill out and apply for a temporary use permit, and that is attached to the agenda abstract. We would require that any of the vendors who are interested, that they would have to obtain the necessary alcohol beverage permit for that one-day event. So, I mean, that would be up on them, not on the county, because we're not the ones selling or in the business of that. So, given this was sort of the first time request, we thought it was important to bring it to the board. If the board had any reservations or wanted us to do any research, we do have between the next board meeting in July, if so, if we don't have the answers now, and otherwise, we would just ask that the manager be allowed to sign the temporary use permit if the board so felt.
Thank you.
And the library director is here if you have any questions about the event that I can't answer.
All right, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions, starting with Commissioner Lovick.
What age groups normally attend this event?
Good question.
So the age groups you asked about?
Yes, ma'am.
It's family event, so it's all ages. It's geared towards more of your teens and 20s, but we have events throughout the day for children as well as up through seniors.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Reeves, any questions?
I had questions the first time I read the document about alcohol at the library. Did you, by chance, have a public hearing to consult with our local bootleggers to make sure that you weren't infringing? I think that would have been in order, but tell me a little bit more about what it is you're going to do. Seriously, I don't understand this one.
About the event itself?
Yes.
So the event itself, this will be our 4th year doing the PopCon. It's, actually, I brought Allison with me because she's more of my pop culture geek on staff. But it's animation, it's graphic novels. Do you want to talk a little bit? Because you know a lot more about this than I do.
It's going to be a Ren Fair and a Comic-Con, and the age group we're aiming for is anywhere from 14 to 35, even 50. We have a meadery that's located in Chatham County that's interested in coming, and they kind of partner with the Renaissance Fair aspect. And what else? We're going to have outdoor events, indoor events. We're going to have interviews with some famous people virtually, gaming, costume contests, sword fights. We have the Knights of the Fiat Lux are going to be on display.
And what type of alcohol are we talking about?
It would be mead and beer.
What was the first one?
Mead, it's made from honey. It's beer from honey.
It's like hard cider. Similar, James Creek, the cider house down in Cameron is also interested if we do pursue this and we're successful, and Hugger Mugger, which is the local brewery.
Okay.
And they would be outside,
As your
of
local
course.
bootlegger.
Beg your pardon?
That's your local bootlegger, Hugger Mugger.
Hugger Mugger.
I'm all for one Lee County Commissioner. I want everybody to have a fair shot. The bootleggers should have been notified, but they were not, so let let's just move on. No further questions.
Commissioner Sharp,
I don't have anything.
No que-
Commissioner Lavelle?
No questions, just that it sounds fun, and I hope that it's a good turnout. Roughly how many people came last year? Well, last year was a weird year,
Right,
but.
so last year was all virtual, but we had a significant attendance. During the live events that we did, we had people on Facebook Live that were attending the virtual interviews. But the year before that, we had approximately.
800 to 1,000.
Yeah, it was, we had, throughout the entire day, our door count was about 800 to 1,000 people.
Good. What are you doing to advertise it? I'm just curious.
So flyers, social media is our biggest hit with making sure we get the word out. Posters in those buildings that are willing to put them up. Did we get something into the? We will be getting something into the rant. We're working actually with our vendors that we're pulling in. They're actually paying for their tables this time, and that money will go directly back into advertising, so we can get advertisement into the rant, perhaps the Sanford Herald
Radio,
and the radio. She's going to
and
be.
hopefully WRAL.
Nice, yes.
Plus, I just went to the Fayetteville Comic Con, which was huge, and I put a bunch of flyers up there.
Good. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Connect?
Well, it's a big deal in Raleigh when they have that Comic-Con. They take over the entire city center, the downtown center. Yeah, very big. It's huge. Thank you.
Commissioner Carver?
Yeah, I looked into a little bit about how we've done this in the past by setting up a kind of cordoned off area where if you're outside of the regular establishment, a cordoned off area where you can actually consume the alcohol. And I talked to Beth List about the possibility of setting up an area, such an area around where the vendors were, put the vendors together so that they would be consuming it close to where they purchased it. And then we won't have people roaming around taking beer into the library or whatever. And I thought that might be helpful. And the other thing is making sure that the police officers are there are advised of what the limitations are so that they could help us keep people in the right place. Anyway, those were suggestions that she seemed to think they might be able to work with.
I do note that last year, when all of this broke out, that the Downtown Sanford Association put together the limits and expanded so they could go out on the sidewalks. So that's why when you go down, I guess, Steel Street, they've got all of these little cones there. That's so they could set up dividers out. And the city took action on that last year. Have you coordinated with Downtown Sanford on their process when they plan on having outdoor events, serving alcohol, and how they keep people?
I don't believe we've gotten that far. We've been they're aware of it, but they've been speaking with Whitney about what our plan is.
I just talked to Amy McNeil with the city, and that was more about the temporary use, but I didn't talk to anyone with, about that specific issue. And, just so everyone is aware, my understanding is what they'll be selling is sealed containers. Okay.
The only thing that had come up that I had briefly mentioned to Commissioner Carver and to Whitney is that there might be a possibility that the vendors might want to offer samples because they do have various flavors of the mead, but that was where we were trying to determine where everyone was at and what they thought about this. They could do straight up sealed containers, and they would not be allowed to open those on property. Those are something that they would purchase and take home with them. The samples would be confined to the vendor table where it's usually a tablespoon, so they can taste it and that's it. And then of course there's the full-fledged if we wanted to allow them to actually drink on property. So there's a lot of options.
They're required to show proof of liability insurance, and the commissioner's insurance policy has a host liability coverage, so we're covered from an insurance standpoint on any alcohol-related events. We're just not covered if we do the serving, so we would have to purchase additional insurance for that.
Then there's always the age factor. How do you determine who the young person is? Are they 21 or above?
That's the vendor's responsibility.
Okay.
And because they're the ones that have the ABC permit to operate on that day, so therefore they're the ones that have to enforce the age limit.
Any further questions? Discussion?
No, I make a motion that we accept the request and that we give authorization to the county manager to sign any paperwork on behalf of the county.
Motion's been made to give permission from the Lee County Library to allow alcohol sales during the PopCon event in August and give permission for the county manager to act on behalf of the board. Any further questions?
Any security gonna be provided?
We're working on that. I know that we can probably get one of the deputies to be there. We've already been discussing with the deputies about being there during open hours anyway, so I'm sure we can pull that in once we know what our
I
plan
would
is.
appreciate that being considered just in case.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir, we'll work with the sheriff to make sure we have a deputy present.
All right.
Maybe two, because some of those people will be armed. Just a joke.
Swords.
You can count on
Any
that.
further discussions?
I just don't know if we as a county want to be associated with books and booze. That just, I don't understand where we're going with this. Next thing, are we going to allow the rec department, allow vendors to come into ball games? You know, they sell at ballparks. So
That's why we're not passing a blanket policy. Basically, each time someone wants to have an event and consider that, you're going to have to approve it on a case-by-case basis. And actually, what got this conversation started to begin with is actually the request from the Spinners to sell beer and wine at their baseball games. So you bring that up. You know, they obviously would like to sell beer, but this year we didn't consider it because of the overlap of the high school baseball games with the Spinner games. We just thought that'd be too much at Southern Lee, trying to do that. But if we ever open up the multi-sports complex, there'll be requests, you know, from the Spinners for alcohol sales at the games.
Good question.
Let me make just one more comment. Listening to Commissioner Lubbock, the reason that I talked about the cordoned off areas is because they were talking about samples. But I'm wondering if we can't find that middle position where we have an agreement that nobody's going to consume anything on campus or on the, that's the way it would be if they just sold sealed containers, correct? Okay. So my recommendation would be that if we go with this plan, that there would be no consumption of the alcohol on the place where we're doing it. Do I have to amend the motion to that effect?
I mean, I can make that a
There's
part of
already
the
a motion, there's already a motion on the floor.
We already have a motion to
amend
give
it.
permission to Lee County Library to allow alcohol sales during the PopCon event in August and add to,
You're talking about little thimblefuls. I mean, it's hard to sell mead without people trying, because most people don't know what mead tastes like.
Okay.
And there's different flavors of that too, so I don't know how hard that would be or not be for them. But you're not, nobody's getting drunk, and nobody's walking around with a bottle or flask. You know, it's a sip, it's a throw out and move on, I think. I don't think that's much issue there. My book.
How do we handle this amendment? If I'm proposing a friendly amendment, and I understand what you just said, but I was also listening to Commissioner Lubbock. So I'm advancing the friendly amendment if you'd add it.
Sure, so the amendment would be, the consumption would just be the sampling of the alcohol in order.
You
Well,
can
that's what it
sell
is.
it sealed, but you can't taste it or drink it while you're there.
That's his addition to your amendment.
Right.
You're saying it's okay to sample, he'd like to add an addition to your amendment that you can't sample, so it's your call if you want to
Maybe
change.
make it clear.
Okay, I think that the amendment stays the way that it is. The vendor can make that decision, I think. That's my motion.
Hold on. Are you adding his?
No.
Okay, let's vote on that.
Okay.
we're going to vote on his amendment.
Okay.
We're voting on his amendment.
We're voting on the original motion, which was to accept the request that was here, selling it sealed, but allowing a sample. So not drinking it publicly, but allowing a sample in a designated area. So that's the motion.
help me with a point of order. If I want to go ahead and do the amendment and have it voted on, can I advance the amendment at this point? You get a vote on the amendment?
All right, now we're complicating things here. I was about to reread the amendment as she submitted the,
She offered the motion.
You would first vote on the original motion, and then
Okay.
if that one,
all right. The first motion was to give permission from the Lee County Library to allow alcohol sales during the PopCon event in August and give the county commission, or excuse me, the county manager the approval authority. Is that correct? All right, that's the original motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Could I please show of hands on those who approved the motion and those opposed? It's 4-3. Motion carried. And was there an additional?
I'd like to move that we would allow the sale of sealed containers, but no consumption at the event.
Okay, motion's been made to allow sealed contain, are we talking about consumption as in sampling?
Any consumption of any, yes. In other words, you wouldn't be able to consume samples either.
Okay, motion's been made to offer no, excuse me, purchasing of sealed containers only and no consumption at all. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No, yeah.
Okay. Motion doesn't carry. I do have a question, and it was during the discussion. Is the library going to receive any proceeds of the sale of these bottles of sealed
No,
beverages? No?
not this year. We can,
Okay.
I think they get the table costs, right, vendor for table costs.
right,
Okay.
right.
And then you become bootleggers.
Thank you.
But you know, you should keep an
Next
eye
year
on how much they
bootleggers,
do
okay.
sell and amend those table costs.
Yeah,
going
we'll
to business.
definitely keep track of it for sure. Clean up for next year. All right, thank you.
All right, item number 7E is the fiscal year 2021-2022 Fire District Budget Ordinance. And we had our public hearing, our last meeting.
Yes, sir. You have before you the budget ordinance for the fire districts. This budget ordinance has been prepared based on the budgets that were brought and the rates that were brought to you by the Fire Advisory Board. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Lisa?
No, not me.
The good news is no rates are going up, with the exception of Clearwater Estates. Theirs are coming down.
That's correct.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 Fire District Budget Ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is the Capital Improvements Program, CIP, for fiscal year 2021 to 2026.
Yes, sir. You have before you the summary that presented the requested and the recommended project summary, and you also have a resolution for your consideration for the adoption of the Capital Improvements Program. At this time, a public hearing was held on June 7th to consider this.
Any questions of Lisa regarding the Capital Improvements Program? Any questions on the resolution?
Do they need to be two separate motions?
No.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion's been made to approve the Capital Improvements Program for fiscal year 2021-2022 to fiscal year 2025-26. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, Lisa.
The next item is to approve the budget ordinance for the fiscal year 21-22. This is for our regular funds, excluding the fire districts. Excuse me. The ordinance that was in your package was based on the county manager's recommended budget because you were still in the middle of going through your work sessions. So you should have at your place a new copy of the first 7 pages of the budget ordinance, along with a memo that explains the changes, and I'll be glad to walk you through that if you would like for me to do the rundown of the changes that were made.
Please.
Okay. We had a budget correction for an error I found in the county attorney's budget that amounted to $6,927 addition. You added an additional vehicle to the IT department in the amount of $25,000. We added an administrative assistant position to buildings and grounds of $56,066 in cost. We had the sheriff's salary changes for that department was $115,004. Salary changes for the animal control division was $7,845. Salary changes for the school resource officers amounted to $53,074. Changes for the communications division was $12,315, and the jail salary changes amounted to $3,237. We had a deduct to economic development for the incentives that would not be paid out this coming year of $529,969. You made allocation adjustments in the human services nonprofits that amounted to $16,000. We added $10,000 as a special appropriation to the Lee County school system. In addition, I added an additional section to the budget ordinance, section 22, that spelled out that that was a pilot program of $10,000 and what the purpose of that program was, in case you want to see that. And then we added $47,506 to the Lee County school system capital expense to correct the budget difference that we had in timing. And then we added a librarian 1 for the library of $53,889, which led to a total appropriation changes in the negative amount of $123,016. And to balance the budget, we lowered the fund balance appropriated by $123,106. And that was the total change to the county manager's recommended budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Lisa regarding the 2021-2022 budget? I want to say thank you for everyone that participated in all the workshops and the questions and the input and the output and all the discussions and filling in for me when I had family. Thank you. Seeing there are no further discussion, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve the 2021-2022 Lee County fiscal budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries, Madam Clerk.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
I have one more thing. I have the May financial report for you.
You are up next.
We try to time it
Getting
well.
ahead of you.
Jennifer orchestrates that very well. So we have the May financial report in front of you. As you remember, sales tax runs 3 months behind. Tax collections as a percentage of budget through May are 1.32% ahead of the same time period last year. Tax is working diligently to get to a 99% collection rate for the year. I think they are well on their way. In reviewing expenditures, the percentage used target is 91.67%. If you back out the encumbrances at this point, we only have one department that at the time I prepared this report was over, and that was emergency services. And that was due to some of the expenditures for the pandemic expenses. And you approved a budget amendment tonight that will bring them back in line based on FEMA reimbursements that should be coming in. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have on the financial report before I move to sales tax, if there is any.
Any questions on the financial report?
I do. In the revenue section, I know we're at the 91 2/3% place as we work through the year, right? Yet a number of the revenues are below. I can understand the sales tax, but can you explain the other ones, especially that one that's at 9% on it? What is it?
9% is investment earnings.
Yeah.
Investment earnings just bottomed out.
Okay.
We started seeing it last year when the pandemic hit, We are trying our best, but everything is just paying very little interest right now. It has gotten so low that cash management trust, where we can put quite a bit, 100% of our money if we want to, even closed down one of their funds because there just wasn't enough difference in the yield in that fund and their regular fund.
I got you.
So it's just bad economy. We may have bounced back on sales tax, but we are just not seeing a bounce
I think
back.
the answer is also, you can get 0% interest in a government-issued loan. Thanks, Kim.
So, and some of the others are timing. Again, USC restricted intergovernmental is only like at 63%. A lot of that is reimbursements. So we'll continue to see money coming in July and August that will go into that as receivables. And in addition, a lot of times because it's reimbursements, you'll also see corresponding reductions on the expenditure side if the revenues are not going to come in.
I got you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on the financial report? Okay, moving to sales tax. You have the sales tax numbers through March 2021. As you can see, we are well ahead of our budgeted numbers because of the way we budgeted for this year. But I've also added our projections for the current fiscal year, and we are right on target with what we adjusted our projections to, and I'll be working off of next year. So overall, through March, we are still at over 17% growth over the previous year. We're just holding out hope that it holds and just taking it and running with it. So anyway, I'll be glad to answer any questions on sales tax that I can, other than I wish I had a crystal ball.
Any questions regarding sales tax revenue? Yeah, 17% is incredible.
Never thought I'd see that. So
Crazy.
it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Next item on the agenda is County Manager's Monthly Report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with our projects. The courthouse renovation, the main courthouse, has started. The district attorney has moved, so the bar construction is working in the clerk of court. They are flying through the downstairs in the clerk of court's area. We passed a big inspection yesterday from the city of Sanford. Want to thank the city of Sanford for coming out on a Sunday, which was Father's Day, to do the inspection. That was a heavy lift for them, and we're very thankful to that cooperation. But we were doing a lot of work on the weekends and in the evenings, and trying to have as much finished by Wednesday as we could, because court's going to gear back up heavily on Wednesday. So thanks to Bar and everybody involved there. It's excellent work, and they've gotten so far along that we believe that they're going to be finished in 60 to 90 days at the courthouse. So we will be finished with all work at the courthouse, and the work we have left is at the government center. The areas where the employees have moved out in the government center, I would just tell you it's a mess right now. So we're still looking at the first quarter of next year before that work will be complete. But we're moving on. The Board of Elections, that project is almost complete. The furniture should be delivered hopefully next week, and they should be able to move in early July, as long as there are no conflicts with the clerk of court's moves as we're moving her around in the courthouse. Parking lots, we've received bids for the Douglas Drive Board of Elections and main courthouse parking lots. We'll be presenting those bids to the board July 19th. We also hope to present the government center parking lot renovation bids to the board at the same time. We're accepting those bids on July 13th. The park projects, the park equipment for Kiwanis Children's Park and Horton Park have been delayed. And so we're still hopeful that will be able to be installed sometime by the mid-July. But all other aspects are on track, and if you've been by the parks, you can see that they're getting, the grading is pretty much finished, and they're getting ready to do final touches there. We've had a setback at the Bob Hale Center, another supply issue. The material needed to complete the work on the outside where the roll-up doors used is back ordered. We were supposed to have already received that material. but the supplier says we will be delayed, and that probably won't be finished until July 31st, and we're finished with the work at the T-ball fields. So, and that has been a big hit. If any of y'all get a chance to go out and see the T-ball in the fall, you should go. It's a hoot. Watching 4 games going on at one time. It's great stuff. COVID update. We're not getting a lot of publicity about this anymore, but we are still vaccinating citizens at the Civic Center for 2 hours a day on the Tuesdays. Tomorrow's going to be our, I have July 22nd. So through July, we'll still be doing that, but then we'll be doing vaccinations strictly at the department. They're also looking at doing events away from the department. They have a strike team that's trying to go out to places of business to do vaccinations. They're working with Piggly Wiggly to try to provide a vaccination clinic at the Sanford Piggly Wiggly on July 9th. To date, there's been 47,401 vaccinations given in Lee County. 29.4% of Lee County residents have received their first dose. That number's not right. I got transposed. I think that's higher. And we've received, actually it's supposed to be 59, I believe, isn't it? I think it's 59. And then 36% have received their second dose. The EEOC call center has been moved to the government center, so those calls are being taken care of over there. In your reading material, I've updated a mountain bike update. This is a mailing that will probably go out to all the people that have contacted me via email. But we have uncovered some issues that we have to overcome. And one of it is, well, the biggest issue is that using GPS over the last 2 weeks, we have found that about 1/3 of the Gravity Park trails are not located on our property. They're located on adjoining property. And so we are developing a plan to contact the property owners to speak to them about the issue. And hopefully I'll be able to give you a plan on that. But we've had 2 consultants out at the park. The issues they feel like we need to address before we reopen are the excavation holes. If you've been out there, there are huge holes that have been dug to build the jumps and the berms, and those have not been filled back in. Those are a safety issue, an environmental issue, and a health issue. When it rains, it holds water, and when it holds water, we have mosquito problems. Many of the jumps are configured more for BMX riding than mountain bike riding. That's part of the reasons for the injury on one of the runs, Shock and Awe. Those need to be reconstructed. We don't have a dedicated return trail. The current return trail crosses 2 of the downhill runs, and one of the runs hits at a jump, which is extremely dangerous, and we have to change the location of the return trail. The bike trails also cross hiking trails. So walkers and riders need to be separated. So we're going to have to reroute some of the bike trails. We also begun ordering new signage and started placing that up since we are still running the single trail. And we have more signs that we'll need to purchase when we reopen. The trails from the campground south of the creek cross hiking trails and also leave our property. So we have to reroute those so they'll be on our property and keep them separate from the hiking trails. And then the consultants are concerned that we don't have progression up on the Gravity Park. We don't have an easy trail. We don't have an intermediate trail. We don't have an advanced trail. We have plenty of expert trails, but none of the lesser trails except for one. There is one. So we are working through that, and I do not have our proposals from the consultants yet because I kind of threw them for a loop when I sent them the map last week and the trails were not on our property. So they have to go back and reconfigure, which will take some time. So unfortunately, evaluation of the trails was long overdue. It's taking longer than we would like to address the issues, but as we keep investigating more and more about the trails. We keep uncovering more and more. And, you know, it's a lot bigger project than we were hoping it would be. But at the July 19th meeting, I hope to provide you all some proposals. In the meantime, we'll keep the single trail open, and the campfire trail and the pump track will stay open. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
On the fill-ins, is any of the dirt the city is supposed to move eligible for that?
It could be.
Yeah,
It could be used to fill in the holes.
yeah. And the second.
It wouldn't be a lot, but yes, sir, we could use it.
Okay. And the second is, are we gonna be able to lease those other properties or purchase the other properties? or-
Don't know yet. The two main properties that we're on, the landowners are not local.
Oh,
So
okay.
we have to send them mail and have them get in
Right.
touch with us because I don't have phone numbers for them either.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, the manager?
What's happening at Temple Ballpark? I know the other ones you said, this material issues.
Yeah, they, you know, obviously there was a lot of grading work and that, we had to replace a stormwater pipe. And the stormwater pipe was an extensive project. So you can see, we inherited that when we took over Temple Park and it disintegrated. And you see where the pipe was laid. Now they've got the big area where they had to do a retention area that at one time I think was the parking lot, a small parking lot at the left field fence for one of the things. So they're about finished and should be able to grass over everything and materials in for them to do the basketball courts there and do the parking lot. So they should be wrapping that up here pretty soon, I hope. And it's, you know, when I tell people it's just going to be one big open area, you know, people get really excited. They can just go out there and run around and play, you know, throw frisbee, football, do that kind of stuff. So be interested to see how just like that open space is used by the public.
Any other questions? All right, seeing that there are none, start with commissioner comments. If I can start with Commissioner Carver. I'm sorry?
If it pleases the board, I can go ahead and provide a summary of the boards and commissions.
Oh, thank you.
Results. Okay. For the Airport Authority, Charles Parks. For the Agriculture Advisory Board, Amy Nanette Davis for West Sanford. For the Joint Sanford-Lee County Environmental Affairs Board, Keely Wood Perez. For the Library Board of Trustees, Aaron Britton, Clarissa Miller, Sue Poore, and Rebecca Hunter. For the Jury Commission, Laverne Kinney. For the Senior Services Board, Martha Wicker, Nani Joy Smith, and Marianne Gaster. For the Triangle South Workforce Development Board, Matthew Cashin and Darrell Parker. For the Americans with Disabilities Act Board, Tiara Street White. I will note that Amy Nanette Davis was removed from the Sanford Board of Adjustments. Upon looking at her address, she actually lives right inside the city limits. In order to be eligible as a county appointment to that board, she would have needed to live in the ETJ, which is the 1 mile outside of the city limits. For the Central Carolina Board of Trustees, Bill Carver. For the Board of Health, Dickie Sloop. For the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Doris Faye Stone and Adrian Standish. For the Parks and Recreation Commission, Greg Croson, Nakisha Richmond, Margaret Ellen G. Moss, and Tiara Street White as the alternate. For the Sand Hills Mental Health Board, Walter Ferguson. And for the Transportation Advisory Board, Stephen Underwood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is commissioner comments, going back to you, Commissioner Carver.
Just a thought, do we respond to people who ask to be on boards and then we're not elected or whatever, just a letter of appreciation or anything? Has that ever been done?
We do that, and we also send the people that aren't appointed that expressed an interest a copy of our current vacancy list in case there's another board they wish to apply for.
Thank you. No other comments.
Commissioner Connect.
Just one thing, it's good to see ex-chair Charlie Parks out in the audience today. You know how hard that job is, don't you?
Not at all.
That's, it's good to see you, Mr. Reeves, that you're here. That's all I have, thank you.
Commissioner LaValle?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of thank Ms. Pam Glover from JCPC. She has a lot of work that she does, and even throughout COVID when things were, I don't think she's with us anymore, but even when things were closed down, those resources were still up, and she was working and connecting youth where they needed to be and finding ways to make things happen. So I just wanted to recognize her and that board as a whole because they do a lot. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Sharp?
Yeah, I would just say thank you to everyone that worked hard on the budget. I'm glad we got through it.
Commissioner Reeves?
Yes, I'd like to thank the board, staff, county employees, other citizens who paid tribute to my wife during these trying times. Thank you so very much for the cards, your prayers. And for those of you who could attend, thank you so very much. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Lovick?
I'd like to thank everyone that put their names in to work for our county. Mr. Charlie, thank you, and the other ones for being here tonight and putting your names out there and get appointed. That's very important for our county. And we still got some openings, so if other ones, as Chair Smith recommended, Kurt Smith recommended, get involved in our community. It's very important, folks. So thanks to the ones that are putting their names out there. It's very important for our county and to keep functioning. So, and I really appreciate being new on the board, the workshops, getting me through everything, the budgeting. Thank you, staff, and everyone else.
Thank you. And I do wish to recognize former Chairman Parks, and I appreciate his putting forth on the Airport Authority. For those of you who do not know, he has numerous years with the Federal Aviation Administration. So he'll fit right in there. I do want to say something about the board appointments, and it is based on the fact that I get phone calls, I get emails, I get complaints, we all get them. So I would encourage you, when you get the next citizen that gives you a case of something in your ear or an email, suggest that they may want to sit on one of these boards and see how much fun they can have, because it's citizenship, participation, and it gets them introduced to various aspects of government. So I encourage that. We did have the final dinner or luncheon with the young commissioners, and they're going to be visiting us at one of our meetings down the road. But it was kind of fun. I did make a point that they know more about their county government and their local governments than many citizens, but that's okay. So anytime you get a complaint from a citizen, you can recommend a board appointment. Encourage them to volunteer. The Triangle South Workforce Board we sat on the other day, and they were making a point that we had 2 vacancies, and I assured them we would fill it. So we are good there. I do have a letter to the Lee County Board of Commissioners, and it says, June 18th, 2021. Dear Commissioners, I want to express my sincere appreciation to the Lee County Board of Commissioners for my past appointments to serve on the Sanford Lee County Airport Authority during the past 12 years. My current term expires this month, and has truly been an honor and a pleasure to have been a small part of the airport's planning and expansion during these years. It is time for me to step aside and watch the airport continue to grow from the sidelines. The airport has a strong organizational and physical structure in place and a bright future ahead. Respectfully, Tom Dozenbach, Vice Chair, Sanford Lee County Airport Authority. And I thank him for that. Without further ado,
I move that we go into closed session per NC General Statute 31811A3 to consult with our attorney to discuss the opioid litigation, and per NC General Statute 143-31811A5 to discuss the acquisition of real property.
Motion's been made to go into closed session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in closed session, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending. 5-minute break.
Is everybody?
Are we hooked up? Sound is up? Camera's up? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.